Ladies and gentlemen, conchers and claspers, welcome to another episode of The Dirt Down Under with Julia Wheeler and Paul Degelder. Julia, so lovely to see you.
We really have a bit of dirt on each other today, don't we, Paul?
I don't know what you're talking about. I know.
It's because I woke you up at 5:30 this morning and made you get to studio for 6:30. Paul doesn't like to get up early, guys. He likes a good sleep in.
Correction, Paul does like to get up early. He just doesn't like to talk to anyone early.
Paul, we're going to Hawaii today.
Should I pack my bags? I haven't packed.
Well, the Australian borders are still closed, so we might have some trouble getting out and getting in again.
All right, how about we just Zoom there?
Okay, let's Zoom there.
All right, let's connect with, who could we talk to? Who knows about Hawaii? And you know what? If we're going to be in Hawaii, we might as well go swim with sharks. What do you reckon?
Absolutely. There's tiger sharks, great white sharks. The biggest great white shark ever seen in history was sighted in Hawaii. Maybe we should talk to that person who swam with it.
Who's that?
Ocean Ramsey.
Hang on. There's a girl called Ocean that works in the ocean.
Yes, Paul. And she's dedicated her entire life raising awareness behind how important sharks are and studied shark behavior and even written a book about it.
Jeez, is her second name Shark?
No.
It should be. I want to go to Hawaii and hang out with this girl. Let's go do it. Actually, I do know Ocean. We've both worked with her before. She's incredible. Her lovely husband, Juan, as well. He works with sharks. They've dedicated their lives to them.
One of the biggest, or probably the most experienced shark behavior experts in the world.
I can't think of anyone that spends more time in the water with sharks than this person. Her knowledge is just enormous. Everyone needs to listen to her. Everyone should listen to this episode because we're going to learn so much. And, you know, I know a lot. I spend a lot of time with sharks. I would never say I'm an expert. I wouldn't take that title away from the real scientists. But I do know a lot more than the normal person. And I'm going to learn today.
Yes, you are. And it took me 3 weeks to hunt her down because she does practically live underwater.
Yeah, she doesn't come up for air much.
No, and she's in Hawaii, in Oahu. And why would she want to come up for air?
I know, one of the most beautiful places in the world, playing with sharks. What a dream life.
I know. And I think it's really important for a lot of listeners to understand the importance of knowing how to handle sharks if you are approached by one in the water, and to also not to fear them as much as we do. And I guess that's a pretty sore point for a lot of people because in general, I fear sharks. Do you still fear sharks?
No, I did before the shark attack, and surprisingly much less now, if at all. But you know why? Knowledge dispels fear. And I learned a lot about sharks, you know, just starting off because the media wanted to get a comment from me for a lot of the times that there were negative shark interactions. So just to sound like not like a dumbass, and so I could give an educated opinion, I started to learn about sharks. And that's what took the fear away. And then I got to spend time in the water with them and just seeing them in their natural habitat, sharks being sharks. That took all of it away. Now I look forward to every single time I get in the water with them.
So guys, if you're listening and you are terrified of sharks and would like to know a little bit more about shark behavior, please tune in for our next guest because they are extraordinary.
Sharks are being portrayed in the media more and more negatively, and they're just being portrayed very poorly. When most of us who spend time in the water, spend time with sharks, we know the truth.
We do. And a lot of us have watched Jaws.
I actually really like it. I know a lot of shark fanatics love Jaws as well because it's a movie. I'd be more worried about people that can't separate reality from fiction than worrying about animatronic sharks.
I know, but I was talking about maybe how Steven Spielberg felt, not you, Paul.
Well, isn't it all about me?
Well, yeah, apparently.
Not today. Today is all about sharks. And we're going to talk about why you need to know about sharks.
If you guys can tune off from the media and from that mainstream negative jargon that they like to portray sharks as being these vicious, man-eating apex predators, if you can all just switch off from that for a little while and listen to someone who really knows all about shark behavior. In fact, she's even written a book on it.
What you should know about sharks.
That was the title of the book. Thanks for that, Paul.
It's my pleasure. And today we're going to dispel some of those fears. We're going to bring you the knowledge to push that out of your brain and bring in the love for sharks.
By a lovely lady
Yep.
in Oahu, Hawaii.
The one and only Ocean Ramsey. This girl has swum with the biggest shark on the planet. She's going to teach us what to do when you have an encounter with a shark, how you need to approach them, how they should approach you, what you should be eating the day before. Probably not that.
I don't think she's going to talk about that.
No, okay, not that then. But this is going to be amazing. It's going to be full of information. I can't wait to hear and learn from her. Why are we doing this, Julia?
Because we need people to realize that sharks aren't these really crazy, psychotic, man-eating apex predators.
They're not.
No.
But that's what the media says.
I know, but the media, the mainstream media, I don't think many of those people have actually swam with great white sharks.
I would say that's 100% truth. But on the Dirt Down Under with Julia Wheeler and Paul Degelder, we're going to bring you the truth with our help from Ocean Ramsey.
What I would really love to know is how has Ocean developed her skills and her knowledge around spending her time educating the rest of the world as to how they should behave and interact with sharks?
The ocean does that?
Ocean Ramsey, Paul.
Oh, you talk about Ocean Ramsey. I love her. She's amazing.
You know, that incredible Amazonian goddess on Instagram with over, I think, 1.3 million followers.
Are we talking about Ocean or you?
No, we're talking about Ocean.
Ocean, okay. So Ocean has swum with the largest great white shark in recorded history, a 20-foot female. And not just one, but three. Oh, my Lord, it's a dream.
Three great white sharks at the same time. And I believe it was munching on a nearby whale carcass and it didn't eat anyone.
What? But that's what great white sharks do.
Apparently.
Don't they eat people?
Well, that's what the media says. I mean, you've swam with so many great white sharks and so has Ocean. And
well, I'm still here. Well, most of me. But
well, no, but that was a bull shark.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, well, I've got nothing against white sharks, so I'm excited to hear what she's got to say. This is going to be amazing. Hawaii, Oahu, One Ocean Diving with Julia and Paul on the Dirt Down Under.
Dirt down under.
The Dirt Down Under.
The dirt.
Oahu, Hawaii is just picturesque and beautiful.
It is. It's incredible. And I've spent a lot of time training there in freediving, and it is just the most special underwater wonderland.
Are you sure we can't go?
I
got my flip-flops on.
Yeah. I mean, maybe we can, I think, let's just call her on Zoom and we'll suss out the next trip.
Deal.
Okay.
Hey.
Good to see you guys.
It's amazing to see you as well. Thank you so much for making the time to chat with us.
I'm so sorry. I was literally I'm sweating right now because I'm trying to
So are we.
literally run. I wish I could kidnap you guys out to Hawaii right now. But are you guys allowed to leave?
You can. I have to leave soon. I have to go back to LA in about 2 weeks. But you have to get an exit letter from the government. But Julia's pretty much been speaking about moving to Hawaii for the last 2 weeks.
So, especially for summer. So nice. It's surprisingly really busy out here. But anyways, let's jump into the good stuff.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're doing well and everyone's healthy over there as long as you're locked in the continent.
Yeah, we are. So, Ocean, we'd love to start with talking about your encounter with the biggest great white shark ever recorded in history.
That one right there.
I know. I love this photo. It's a rough-toothed dolphin that's actually brushing its tail up on her nose, and she's so nice and mellow. And working with white sharks for almost 2 decades now. It's very apparent when they're territorial or when they're inquisitive, and she really could care less about much of what we were doing. She was more interested in using the boat as a scratching post and going and munching on a dead whale, which was fascinating to see too. And we haven't even had time to go through all that footage, but it's just, for me, such an incredible encounter, really, really special for so many reasons. But I think the biggest thing about it is just that encounters like that and individuals like that are increasingly rare.
We'll touch on all the shark conservation in a little bit. We just kind of want to get a glimpse into the story of this incredible experience you had with, it wasn't just deep blue either, was it? Was it, I heard it was 3 different humongous sized mega girls. How did that situation arise?
Yeah, so actually the one here is not deep blue. I call her Grandma Great White. So what I did with my husband, Juan Sharks, is we actually developed a program where people can join us out in the water to learn about sharks. And so on that particular day, we're going out and we were looking at Galapagos sharks, and then the Galapagos sharks disappeared. And then we had some tiger sharks come through the area. And then when the tiger sharks disappeared, because there's a social hierarchy across species, it was kind of interesting. I was like, why would they be leaving? And then I saw the rough-toothed dolphins on that particular day. And the rough-toothed dolphins came up with the massive, beautiful great white shark. The one in the image here, deep blue was in the evening on the day prior and the following day. So it was almost like these 3 really large females were sort of taking turns coming up, never seen at the exact same time, but very different individuals, all of which were much more interested in the dead whale carcass that was in the vicinity, but not always next to it. They were in the vicinity. And they may have been taking turns sort of going to the carcass and going away from the carcass. But generally, as a warm-bodied species, when they come to Hawaii, based on the tag data that we have, which is shared from tagged white sharks in Mexico, which I've gone and helped out with, including setting tags and receivers and retrieving those receivers, and using the same Femco receivers, we can see that they come here, but they generally tend to stay like 300 feet and deeper, so 100 meters and deeper, and that's probably because they're sort of more niche for kind of cooler temperatures. But we tend to see them here around whale season. Whale season is our winter for the humpback whales, and so it makes sense, predators following prey items.
Yeah, that must have blown your mind. I didn't even know great white sharks even came to Hawaii. What were you thinking when that gigantic shark just turned up?
Well, I mean, it's kind of like all the sharks align, like all the stars align, because it's like having been working with sharks all day, every day, for over 2 decades now, and then just being so, I guess you could say, affluent in shark body language and very, very experienced working with white sharks in particular, it was extremely special to get to experience that with a white shark at home. It's not the first white shark I've seen, and the consistency across the 3 individuals and not really being interested in people so much. But yeah, very, very fortunate, very grateful, extremely grateful. Every single time I think of her, I'm just so grateful. And again, it fuels my passion to try and speak up for those individuals, because it's just so sad that, they're increasingly rare. There's so many human impacts and threats to them. And that I feel like a lot of people, if they saw this huge, beautiful white shark, would think monster and I should kill it if they have the opportunity, versus, oh, that's an incredibly rare and important individual that we should actually protect.
Yeah. Do you have any idea where these sharks were coming from and or going to?
Yes. So based on the tag data, you can see some of those exactly same tag sharks coming out to Hawaii, so from Mexico, and then also from Northern California. So they'll go and sort of follow the whale migration down. And there's a place in between Hawaii and California and Mexico called the White Shark Cafe. And it's really interesting to see how many sharks are actually going there. White sharks are going there. So yeah, lots to know about their behavior. It's just so sad that they're being killed faster than we can learn about them. I mean, people still don't even have footage of them mating. There's so much more to learn, but there's really no point to studying them at the rate they're being killed if you're not going to try and do something to help save them.
Absolutely. And I've been down to Guadalupe with Mauricio as well. And just like you, he's doing amazing things to try and raise awareness and get new data in and intel on how we can better protect these animals.
Yeah, it's such a special place to get to see them. And I thought that was really cool to see Deep Blue there. I've seen her there in Guadalupe and then out here in Hawaii as well.
Oh, he's so
That's
lucky.
really,
I
really
still haven't
special.
seen a big female yet, but I'm about to head to the Neptune Islands for a show, and apparently the mega girls are down there, so I can't wait.
Osh, I would love the listeners to hear about how you felt when you were in the water next to this gigantic shark, because so many people fear sharks, yet you spend every single day surrounded by so many, I think it's up to 30 or 40 individuals at a time, even more. And all of a sudden you're in the water and there's no other sharks around and you're swimming next to this, prehistoric angel. I mean, were you scared?
We do get that question a lot, like, are you afraid when you're in the water with sharks? We're definitely afraid for them in general because of human impacts. I'm afraid when I jump in the water and I don't see sharks at places that I grew up going and seeing a lot of sharks. The feeling that I have being in the water with like white sharks and tiger sharks is kind of different from species to species, but it's also very different from individual to individual because they are such individuals. And I think that's the really cool thing about having spent so much time observing their behavior and being knowledgeable about that being next to her and not seeing any agonistic territorial body language, threat displays, or even specific approaches that they'll use if they're sort of trying to approach something in a predatory way. Being knowledgeable about that and seeing her behavior, she was just, I call her Grandma Great White because she has the behavior of a grandma. She's like, she knows what she wants, she knows what she doesn't want, and she's just cruise. She's like, I don't need to deal with these little human sea monkeys, like she was not threatened by us, and she was definitely not threatening towards us. And I have observed that and experienced that with other really, really large, older females. And I do think it's, just in part to you're kind of safer in the water with the older, wiser ones because they really know what they want and what they don't want. And similar to humans, the teenagers tend to sort of push the boundaries when they're shifting what their diet preference is. So they're shifting from like flat rays and fast fish up to those more nutrient-rich, dense, fatty seals or sea lions. But so much of what we do is trying to encourage people to go diving with sharks if done safely. Because I don't think that there's anything more impactful to changing people's perception of sharks as actually getting in the water and getting to see what they're really like. And of course, if done safely with the right environmental conditions and things like that, and knowledge, because I don't want to just encourage people to jump in, especially not with a white shark or any large predatory species. It's really important to be aware of their behavior and be respectful of their role in the ocean as apex predators. That's their job, is to pick off the weak, wounded, injured, sick, dead, and dying. So, of course, you don't want to act like that. And they're damn near perfect, and they rarely ever make a mistake. But, of course, sometimes mistakes happen.
Well, that's a good point. A good point that you raised about you don't want to encourage people to just jump in and swim with these animals. For example, you wouldn't just get on a racing motorcycle or get in a racing car or go parachuting or do anything that's potentially dangerous without the right education, without the right training. And you definitely wouldn't want to do the same thing with a large, wild, potentially dangerous animal. So it's no different to that. What sort of conservation message do you feel came out of that experience to the wider public?
Thank you for that. I think that what came out of it was just like what we're trying to do is get sharks good media, because for generations they've been sort of portrayed as these mindless monsters, and rarely are they ever shown in sort of their day-to-day, which is very rare that they feed. They really don't feed that often. And generally just doing their role in the ecosystem. I think that a lot of people just don't appreciate them for that role because they are predators. And so maybe it's harder to sort of love a predator, but it doesn't make them less important for the health of marine ecosystems. If anything, they're like the doctors of the ocean. And so you can imagine a society without doctors. One person gets sick, disease spreads. Same idea with fish stocks. One fish gets sick, and then that can spread to the whole school. So it's scientifically proven that where you have healthier shark populations, you have healthier, more resilient fish stock populations. Same thing with coral reefs and seagrass beds and things like that. So I think that this was a wonderful thing to get into the greater international media for sharks and like a peaceful coexistence to show that we can coexist with sharks. And as a matter of fact, we do. We already knew this. There's fewer than 10 human fatalities every single year. But a lot of like shows and media, they tend to focus on those 10 or fewer incidences. And rarely ever do they discuss how many sharks are killed by humans. So on the contrast side, over 100 million sharks are killed every single year. And it'd be great to continue trying to get that out into the greater media to talk about the importance from an ecological perspective, from even just the fact that humans do rely on the ocean. And it was super timely for Hawaii because for years we've been pushing for a bill to pass to give sharks full protection in Hawaii. And I just felt like, how perfect is this timing where literally that bill needed to get introduced. And when this made the headlines and I was able to talk about that, it got introduced right away on both the Senate side and the House side. That bill, by the way, for this year is currently in the governor's office, so it might get signed into law this year.
That's amazing. What does that bill include?
So it's full protection for sharks, meaning that if somebody kills a shark, it's a finable offense and they can take all of their equipment, any commercial licenses. It's kind of sad, honestly, that Hawaii hasn't had that law passed before, and I think just there's like a strong cultural, traditional respect for them. But we have seen an increase in the number of people that occasionally will kill, like, especially baby hammerhead pups. Yeah. It would make Hawaii a shark sanctuary.
That's awesome. Really, really awesome. And I think, a lot of that has to do with the incredible work that you do around sharks and saving sharks because, yeah, it's so inspiring. And Osh, I just want to go back to talking about the media. And, the media does like to portray sharks as these man-eating monsters. And at the same time, when you had your encounter with these sharks, these huge great white sharks, the media also came after you and they tend to attack you a little bit about how you handle sharks and touch them and things like that. And I mean, I'm not a shark expert. The majority of the population aren't shark experts. And I'd love to know how it made you feel when you had the international media basically slamming you for doing what you know better than anyone else.
I kind of know the person that started sort of the controversy, and a lot of it had to do with sort of some researchers in competition for white shark tagging data. So I was like, okay, I know it started from like an ego thing. But to be honest with you, in hindsight, I appreciate it because it kept the conversation in the news longer. And the conversation was, oh, maybe you shouldn't be touching sharks. You know what I mean? Not for my safety's sake. It was actually for the shark. Like people actually cared about the shark. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is great. Like people care, like the way that they would care if somebody was like touching a dolphin or something like that. I mean, I know what I'm doing. I'm not hurting the shark. I'm not worried about that. I mean, I'm even wearing gloves and barely touching. Also, I wanted to be at her same level because I think so many times humans put themselves sort of above something. And back in like 2012, 2013, I was swimming with a white shark. And at that time, there were 5 sharks around me, 5 gray whites. And I held onto the dorsal because that was a very sort of safe place to be with some more active predations. And again, to try and bring attention to what was going on for them. But I thought it was great from 2012 to 2013 where people didn't care that I'm touching a shark, where I was very much touching it a lot more for sort of safety considerations, to 2019, where I know it was a little bit of an ego thing between 2 researchers starting the controversy on touching. But the fact that people cared that sharks are being touched, I was like, they care about sharks. The only problem with the whole conversation, because I don't care about the other stuff towards me, but the only problem was like, if people really cared about the sharks being touched, like the people that want to jump on and be like, oh, you shouldn't touch sharks. All of those people, if they genuinely cared about sharks or were bothered by sharks, those people would be talking to people that fin sharks, would be talking to companies that sell shark meat or shark byproducts or anything like that, something that actually harms sharks, not just kind of jumping on a gravy train of like criticizing me for barely touching a white shark.
Yeah, it feels like Feels like they went for the easy target instead of actually doing something to make an actual difference in the realm of sharks and stopping them getting killed by the tens of millions as bycatch. Instead, let's pick on Ocean because she touched a shark, and yeah, but that's going to bother a 2,000-pound animal so much when this little blonde girl puts a hand on it.
As Ocean was saying, it was a great way for the media to continue the conversation.
Yeah, it's amazing that you took your ego out of it and were able to see that the criticism towards you was actually benefiting the conversation around the shark. So kudos to you for being able to do that. I don't think a lot of people would be able to do that. They'd get very defensive, but it seems like you've used that for good.
And how many views have you had of the footage of you swimming with this shark?
I have no idea.
Millions.
Like, really
Gazillion.
Millions and millions and millions.
But you know what? I think it's so good if it is getting viewed that much because, again, like it's furthering the conversation. It's getting sharks in the media or in front of people's eyes in a beautiful coexistence way. And it's always this weird balance between to like help people to overcome fear enough to get them to support conservation measures, but at the same time trying to replace that with a healthy level of respect. And so there's this tough balance that you run right there. There was one moment in the water with Grandma Great White. It was the sun was going down. It was low lighting. It was on I think the third day. And she came up to the whale carcass. And by that point, a lot of people had found out where this whale carcass was. It was only, a certain distance offshore. So there were a lot of people in the water, and there were some people in there with bright yellow fins, bright white fins, and they were kind of, thrashing around and probably shouldn't have been in the water. But they jumped in, not knowing what's going on. And my team and I were swimming around, sort of turning away some tiger sharks earlier because we couldn't tell these people to get out. And then she came up just as the sun was going down, and she went by and checked out some boats. Someone jumped in front of her without looking before they got in the water. I was there next to her, and she totally could have turned towards that person. She actually went around that person. I was just like, wow, you're amazing. There's so many things I've seen in shark behavior that massively contradict everything that you see in the news. And they are so much more intelligent and calculated and complex and fascinating. So as she went by, she went up to the whale carcass and she kind of was like, oh, I have an audience watching me. I'm not really sure. She started to take a little munch and then she took a breather. Something caught her eye in the low light, and it's these bright yellow, bright white fins of these people who were not that far away. And there are quite a few of them. And so she did. She turned towards them and she started to head towards them. And it's I don't want this beautiful encounter to turn into anything else. I trust that she wasn't trying to go at them because they really don't look at you as a normal food, but just curiosity, I think, towards the really bright, flickery colors, which kind of look like a fish over there. And so she turned towards them. So I put myself in between those people and her and was kind of like, okay, which way are you going? Which way are you going? And so as she approached closer.
What?
Yeah.
So this shark was about 20 foot. And you can say a length, but you can't fathom the girth and the actual size of a 20-foot female great white shark.
And Ocean just decided to put herself in front of some people and this shark, which is incredible.
What is it that allows you to do this sort of thing without feeling fear?
I don't want an accident to happen because if an accident happens, what happens to all of our conservation efforts, you know what I mean? So it's extremely important to me, in water safety. I have extensive amounts of training. It was such a beautiful encounter and multiple days of this that I didn't want, these bright yellow, white fins, people doing things that we literally tell people not to do every single day, to sort of turn her reputation and her just doing her job around. So I put myself in that position, and she was very non-confrontational and sort of just kind of turned to the side, just very slowly. There's a spot on the shark right around here that's kind of softer, and you can literally push as if you're pushing down on a feather, and they'll actually gently sort of push away from it. It's a really, really soft spot, and so I just kind of went like that, and it was sad because it's I didn't really want her to go, but I was kind of this is an unfortunate situation that these people are here and it's getting so dark that it's hard even for me to see in the water. And she turned away and she dropped down. And so again, it's that balance between a healthy level of respect and just awe and amazement, but that they generally really, 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 really do not look at us as a natural prey item.
For the people out there that aren't able to have the same encounters that you've had and who aren't exactly open to be able to feel and witness what it's like to swim with sharks, what advice can you give to them about what to do if they do encounter a shark in the water?
Love it. Thank you for that. For those that want to avoid an encounter with a shark, it's hard to summarize in like a couple sentences.
Yeah, I knew it would be. But if you can kind of give us a little bit of a, 1 to 2 minute bit of advice about what people could do, if that's even possible, if they see a shark in the water.
Yeah. Oh, no, definitely. The first thing that you want to do is look at it. And even before that, a great way to help avoid an adverse interaction is constantly turning your body when you're in the ocean. Because when you're in the ocean, you're in their home. And when you're constantly turning around, you're acting a lot more like them, a lot more like a predator. And so your body language, which is how they communicate, makes you appear more like a predator. And so they're a lot less likely to approach you as a potential prey item if you're constantly turning. And I give that same advice for surfers sitting up on their surfboard. Don't just sit there and float like a dead animal on the surface. You're definitely a lot more approachable. You look a lot less threatening when you're just sort of sitting there and floating. We're looking in all directions every 10 seconds. That's how often we look around. If a shark gets spotted and you see it coming towards you, you want to look at it and you want to turn and face your whole body towards it, because again, body language. And so when you're actually turning your body towards them, it's a little bit more obvious that you're in a sort of predator to predator greeting. And as they approach you, if you have fins on, or if you have a GoPro, or you have a camera, or you have anything, you want to extend that towards them. So you're making a small movement towards them and ideally placing an inanimate object in between you and the shark. So if they do want to come up close enough to greet you, to say aloha, to shake, it's going to be with like a plasticky rubbery fin or a GoPro on a pole or something else. Generally, they're going to turn off. It's very rare that they'll actually make a physical contact. If they do come past you fins, that means it's probably a larger species like a white shark or a tiger shark. Again, extending something that's inanimate, but if they do move past it, putting your hand on top of their head, pushing down, locking your elbow out straight, and stiff-arming them will actually push you back. So it's not that you're pushing the shark away, it's actually pushing you back. But if you needed to deter a large shark like a tiger shark, hand on top of the head, push the head down, essentially closing the mouth rather than it lifting up, and then pushing yourself up and over, and ideally behind the shark. That's going to be the safest spot for you to be, behind the shark, and then face the direction that it's going. So you can see if it's trying to turn up or turn back, and then continually looking around for other individuals. And so best thing that you can do to modify your behavior, look around every 10 seconds ideally, or as often as you can when you're in the water. Limit splashing or thrashing around on the surface or any kind of noise that's going to draw attention. Sound travels 5 times faster underwater. Many species can hear you coming over a kilometer away. That's how sensitive their hearing is. Also, don't swim or surf outside of like harbor mouth entrances, areas with like heavy fishing, any kind of sewage or drainage, anywhere that they're cleaning fish. Generally try to avoid murky conditions because they do rely on eyesight.
Tell me about it.
And so, yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's really funny.
Yeah,
that
you should tell everyone about it.
The funny thing you mentioned there that I tell a lot of people about is something that I was very surprised about too. And I noticed it with bull sharks, with tiger sharks, as you were saying, even with great whites outside of the cage. They know when you're looking at them. And they will creep up from behind or from the side. But as soon as you turn front onto them and they know that you're watching, it's kind of like they've been busted and they're like, oh, no, I swear, mate, I wasn't going to do anything. I was just having a look, and they swim around you. like you said, though, the bigger ones will just keep swimming towards you, but with very little aggression. And like you said, put your hand out on the nose. I say it's like the Karate Kid, wax on, wax off, where you push them from the side of the head, you push them from the top or behind the jaws if they're above you. And yeah, it's such a perfect technique to just prove to them that you're not food and you are also a predator and you need to be respected like them.
I do have to throw something in here, though. Everyone's greatest fear is what happened to Paul Degelder. You lost your arm, you lost your leg, you were attacked by a bull shark in Sydney Harbour. And Ocean, I'm just wondering, why do you think Paul was attacked by a bull shark?
In a harbour, which I mentioned sort of without actually thinking about Paul's incident, because I don't think about that. And I think that maybe to the remark of like, worst nightmare kind of thing. But it's like Paul's an awesome person. He lives an amazing life. And it's just like sometimes accidents happen, whether it be from falling from a tree or in a car accident. But it's like for those people who sustain injuries doing the things that they love, to be like Paul and, get yourself together as best as you can. And he's amazing and he's so strong and he's fit and he's positive and he's
okay, just like chill out.
No, please tell me more.
No, don't.
Tell me more.
Stop. Ocean, can you just stop, please? His head is expanding so much that his headphones are going to fall off. His headphones are falling off.
Well, I got to make up for the egg I lost.
No, but really, his head is like exploding in front of me.
You more than made up for it. You're doing a lot. And a lot of people are afraid to live their life. And a lot of people are afraid to enjoy the ocean and do all the cool stuff that Paul's doing, you know what I mean? And they limit themselves because of fear. And I think, as Paul would say too, it's an accident that happened, and it's very rare that it happens, and it's unfortunate that it happens. But accidents are going to happen. Also, if you look at human impact, if I had to guess in that situation, being in Sydney Harbour, I mean, you have a lot of fishing boats. There's probably a lot of fish scraps being dumped.
There was a dead body under the wharf right by me.
There you go. And I don't know what the visibility is.
Oh, it's horrendous.
Sydney Harbour. Sometimes things happen for a reason, and Paul's definitely an incredible person. I don't think that it slowed him down at all.
Oh, just stop. Just stop blowing up his head. Please, you've done it enough.
I don't know if you've met my friend Julia. She really likes me a lot.
I like you a little bit less today.
All right. Moving on from how awesome I am.
Envoy
Let's talk about Envoy, the movie.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I honestly don't know when it's getting released, and I'm just so happy that
Oh, it's out. It's been out.
It's been released.
Yeah, it's been out for ages now.
In the international market?
Ooh, I don't know about that.
I'm not sure.
Was it on Netflix in Australia?
No.
It was on. Was it on?
No,
I don't know.
In Australia, but
it's been doing the movie premieres. It's been doing the rounds. But just to give everyone a little bit of context, this is an Australian film that Ocean was involved in, and it exposes 7 years of footage to show what is happening to sharks in Australia. And Ocean, maybe you can enlighten all of us about what's going on here.
It's really sad. I think that, for generations, people grew up not knowing very much about sharks, you know what I mean? And it's sort of like the human imagination is everything so much scarier than it actually is in reality. And so nets are put up all along the beaches where people would go to swim. The nets are really, really ineffective. They don't necessarily keep a shark out. If anything, they can actually keep a shark in closer to shore. It's very much messing with nature in so many wrong ways. And these nets are pretty indiscriminate. It's not like they're only killing sharks. They're actually killing a lot of dolphins. It's the horrible, horrible footage of little baby dolphins with hooks through their stomachs. And so it's kind of crazy that in a modern day society where we know how important sharks are for an ecosystem and that populations are being depleted, not just of sharks, but of whales and sea turtles and other things, that nets would even be allowed. It's just it's very much going against science. We have drones now. If you're really concerned in really popular beaches, then fly some drones out.
Well,
you
the
know, where you can
government's
spot so
perpetrating
many.
that to continue that as well by creating huge fines, something like $50,000 for anyone that goes near the nets, anyone that goes near the drum lines, because people going out there and documenting what the government actually wanted to hide. They didn't want people seeing that there were humpback whales and baby dolphins and turtles and rays and endangered species of sharks getting caught in it. So they just said it was too dangerous and issued a fine for anyone going there. But it's not because they want to protect people. It's because they want to protect their reputation, which I find very disgusting.
But I read that culling sharks is proven to be ineffective in a court of law.
Yeah.
Yeah, that study actually came out of Hawaii. Because of behavior, especially when you're targeting large individuals, you're leaving sort of the same territory open to maybe 3 smaller, younger, less cautious individuals. So again, that's sort of meddling in nature, and there's so many examples where it's like you'll use one sort of scientific fact or one sort of method to try and correct some other human impact. But removing the nets would not only be better for, you know, the ecosystem for sharks, but for many other animals. And, you know, to be honest with you, it's like when a dolphin gets caught in a net, I mean, you're going to attract a shark towards the net, but it's, again, not necessarily going to capture the shark. If anything, maybe you're just positively reinforcing it feeding in that area and keeping the shark in an area in a naturally longer period of time than it would be.
But even the drum lines, I don't understand how putting a big piece of meat on a drum line near surfers is going to keep sharks away.
Yeah, it's exactly what Ocean was just saying, that it's more likely to attract the sharks in. And I shot a documentary just near Foster Tuncurry when we were working with the Department of Primary Industries there, catching some great whites on their new smart drum lines. We caught a juvenile great white and we got it off the hook and put an acoustic tag inside its abdomen wall. And we drove away, and 5 minutes later, there was a smaller juvenile great white shark caught on the same drum line. We hadn't even transited very far. And then the next morning, we went to get coffee at that beach, and there were 30 senior citizens doing their morning swim out to the drum line and back. And so it just seems like it's almost like an oxymoron. We're keeping people safe from sharks by attracting sharks in. It really doesn't make any sense. But Ocean, you and Juan probably spend, more time than almost anyone else on the planet in the water with sharks. Do some of the sharks recognize you? Do you look at these guys and girls as friends? And how does it make you feel when you see some of these friends turn up with hooks in their mouths or their jaws dislocated from just being caught on fishing charters?
Yeah. Gosh, thank you so much for mentioning like the smart drum lines. We actually we documented some of the drum lines out in WA. I don't know, what was that, like 2015 or something like that? And there was a triathlon going on right there, and it was so close to shore. And like all it's doing is essentially like chumming or baiting sharks into the area, and you have all these people in bright yellow, yum yellow swim caps crashing on the surface right there. And there was a smaller shark, caught, and the bottom half of it had been eaten by probably a larger shark, like a tiger shark. And so again, just positive reinforcement and baiting it. So the drum lines are not a solution either. To your other question, it's heartbreaking to see these individual sharks that like we've been so lucky to have grown up with. I spend more time with sharks than I do with my, human family. So they become like family. As a kid growing up and going back to a place and seeing the same individual shark or even the same fish, you just realize that there really aren't that many of them. And since we've been documenting shark populations off Oahu now for about 2 decades, we have over 300 different sharks identified, only 30 of which are tiger sharks. And so we know these tiger sharks, and we'll see them on a 1 to 3 year cycle. And they come back and they've got huge hooks, sometimes lines with like a water jug tied to them, which is a really horrible thing that some fishermen will do offshore. Nets, like wrapped up in nets, horrible tagging methods, like impacts, not from us, but from other people, and scars and marks that you can tell are from humans, even sometimes like bullet holes. And that's here in Hawaii, where like traditionally they're respected. The majority of the population is very respectful of sharks. In other parts of the world, it's just like many of those individuals that I grew up seeing and I would see almost every year, you know, like going out to Tahiti and stuff like that. I don't see them anymore. It's heartbreaking because you're like, oh, what happened to him? And you just hope that they got old, but the ones that are around the same age that you're still seeing, you just see an increase in the number of hooks and lines and, you know, bullet holes and things like that. And like for that individual, Roxy, it's so sad, interesting that people will look at her initially as really scary because half of her jaw is broken open. To me, she's beautiful. She's a survivor. And what's ugly about that is what humans are capable of doing, because she was hooked and probably fought for her life hard enough that it actually broke her jaw open. She's been wrapped up in multiple nets. Both Juan and I have been fortunate enough to be able to help her and cut those lines off on multiple occasions. And it's kind of cute because it's like I feel like she comes by to see us like at Christmas, around my birthday, and anytime that she's wrapped up. And I'm grateful for that. I'm like, I'll be your cleaner fish. I'll help you out there.
She's going to the One Ocean Research cleaning station.
Yeah, to have their lives saved.
Yeah, it's nice to be in that position, to be able to utilize our skills in the water and our knowledge and experience on shark behavior to directly save sharks. And then also indirectly talking to people all day, every single day, about all the conservation impacts. People learn about all the impacts. They learn about shark nets. They learn about shark finning. They learn about shark fishing and pharmaceuticals and souvenir trade and shark meat and being a more conscious consumer and things like that. And so I really do love that sort of immersive program for making a greater impact.
Can anyone come and do that with you?
Yeah, anyone in the world. It's so cool that you came out with it.
Let's go.
Yeah, anyone in the world can go to Oahu and hang out with Ocean and Juan and learn all about sharks.
I was meant to go last year on my way back from LA when COVID kicked in, and I had a 10-day trip booked with these guys, and I was so excited, and the day before I had to cancel. But one day I'll come out there and I probably won't leave, and that's why I'm moving to Hawaii. I'm going to go work with Ocean and Juan.
Trust me, it's amazing.
It's cool that like Julie and I got to go work in like South Africa together and go look for white sharks and swim around with seals. And
we did. Ocean and I, we were in South Africa in 2018. 2019. Yeah, we went and we were part of we made a documentary over there, and it was the first time that I'd met Ocean and Juan. And you think, oh God, they're so amazing, they're gorgeous. And then when you meet them in real life, yeah, I have a mad girl crush on Ocean for sure. But she's so amazing. And it was incredible because we were in Hansby, I think, in South Africa. We were in a little fishing town, and we were out on the rib, and we saw our first great white shark. And Ocean, I just could feel her energy, wanting to be in the water. And it was the first time that I'd ever seen a great white shark. And this thing was the same size as the boat. It was massive, and the way that it moved, even looking at it from the surface, was so mechanical.
Oh my gosh, yeah, absolutely. Because I was just like, I went from like, okay, we're probably not going to see anything, to like, oh my gosh, she's right here, right next to the boat, like you said, bigger than the boat. And that was so exciting because I think sort of the build up to that was going all these places with you, and we weren't seeing white sharks where they used to be so prevalent. I mean, it used to be sort of the white shark hotspot, the place to go to see them. And it was just so sad to see that imbalance in the ecosystem with the fur seals, just their populations exploded, and we're literally diving, freediving there where there should be a ton of white sharks, and there's none, and they haven't seen any for a long time.
And we were literally swimming in thousands of seals, these Cape fur seals.
Oh, shark biscuits.
No, but there were no sharks. There were just seals everywhere, just balling us up. And it was incredible. And then we went freediving in Shark Alley as well in the kelp. And there were no sharks. There were no sharks.
Is this around the time when the orcas had been removing the fatty livers? Combined effort of shark nets and drum lines and fishermen, and then two orcas come through and work out they can rip open the belly of a shark and holding it by a fin each and tearing open its belly, and it's liver pops out and eats it. But look, we're running out of time. But I have one question because I was curious and I want to know. So when I dive with sharks, predominantly it's going to be on scuba. Very, very rarely am I freediving, which is what you are really, really specialized at. Now, I've always been curious, what happens when you dive all the way down into the blue and you have a big tiger shark there and then you go, oh, I'm running out of breath. And I know that you're not supposed to like swim away in a panic from a shark because it instills their predatory mode, and like a cat, they'll want to chase you. How do you not panic and fend off a massive tiger shark without hurting you or it, but still get to the surface with enough air to not pass out? Like, that's got to be terrifying for me. Tiger shark, running out of breath, I'm under the water. What am I going to do?
You should come take a freediving class with me.
Yeah, really good idea.
All right.
Now, depending on the situation, you can observe different behaviors from different species. And so I like the balance of both, but I maybe love freediving a little bit more, and it's just because it makes you a little bit more like any other marine animal, where the bubbles aren't going to scare you away. I'm a lot more agile and fluid in the water. And to be honest with you, as far as having to like move out of the way of the approach of a large shark or deter a large shark, I feel a lot more comfortable in my ability to move quickly and rapidly when I don't have the BCD and the scuba tank strapped to my back. So I do love that. I can hold my breath underwater for a very long period of time. So you kind of know when you train and you're diving down how long your breath hold is. And then, of course, just like you said, Paul, it's like you don't want to turn your back, you don't want to panic, you don't want to race away. So it's sort of like as you're approaching that time that you would need to breathe, you need to be sensitive to the way that you're moving in the water with the sharks, depending on if you're purposely doing it or you're not purposely diving with them. But of course, I'm going to speak specifically about what you said, which was purposely diving with a shark. And so if I'm down in the water and I have a large shark approach me, the feelings that rush through me are joy, excitement, and I want to document and see which individual this is for the photo ID. So it's all a happy, feel-good type of thing. So there's no moment where I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to panic, I need to race to the surface, I need to get away. I can sort of trust my abilities and my experience to be able to deter if I need to deter, to evaluate the approach and the behavior as they approach me, and then either interact, avoid, or do whatever needs to be done to exit. But that's part of what I do, and that's part of the reason that I wrote the book and have an online course, is because I want to share that information, because I don't want someone that doesn't specialize in that spending an extensive period of time if a shark needs its space back, if it's dropping its pectorals, fluffing its gills out, it's swimming at you, swimming right, and it's checking, it's asking you, get back. You know, if you're unaware of their body language and their behavior, you may not pick up on those somewhat subtle cues, exaggerations of their natural body movement, where they're very polite predators. The goal of the program with One Ocean Diving, the book and online course, is sharing that information so that people can be more sensitive to their incredible language, their social behavior, their social hierarchy, the differences in different species, and wonderful things like that. But as far as freediving with sharks, I mean, absolutely love it. There's a lot of things you should and shouldn't do. Depends on the species and the place in the world, environmental conditions, and things like that. So I don't know if that answered your question.
Well, there's a lot to know. There's more than what most people think, but you can learn a lot about it in your book, What You Should Know About Sharks. I can highly recommend that. And then also, if you've got a holiday coming up, go to Oahu, go and look up One Ocean Diving. What is it? One Ocean Diving Research. Look for Ocean and One, and go and learn in person. I promise you, there is nothing on this earth that can replicate swimming and diving with sharks. It'll be a moment you will remember for the rest of your life. You'll talk about it forever, and you will never, ever regret it.
And you'll be so inspired when you meet Ocean and One and see how they work as a team and how dedicated they are and how excited they are to be in the water with the sharks and just to teach people and, you know, welcome them into their world.
Yeah, on the island of Oahu, so if you fly into Honolulu, we're on the North Shore, which is well known for huge surf. And that's kind of cool that, surfers too, and so surfers who obviously love sharks and helping to sort of transition that across. But thank you both for everything that you do. Paul is such an incredible voice. I know I don't want to make Julia uncomfortable, but I'm like, you're so amazing.
Not at all. Not at all.
She could feel me looking at her and smiling again.
And Julia too, like your show and like your photography and helping to get people, remember, they look first and listen second. And so it's that captivating imagery that really starts those conversations. And so thank you for being that beautiful, inspiring person as well, both, in person, but also through your work and your photography. And thanks for setting this up and hunting me down. And I'm like on the water all day, every day in a wetsuit. And like, I'm so sorry. I'm just like,
it's okay. I just knew.
Water. I'm like, underwater. On land, just a little bit underwater.
That's all right. The sharks need you. We just wanted to steal a little bit of your time. But Ocean, thanks so much for sharing all of that information and sharing your passion and your love for sharks with us. So proud of everything that you and Juan are doing, and continue the fight for Hawaii's sharks, and hopefully the legislation gets passed to protect them.
And hopefully I'll see you soon. We can go diving.
Yeah, I think when you come here, we're not going to let you leave. So Australia's got to enjoy you for a little bit longer.
I'm totally down with that. Thanks, Ocean. We'll see you soon. Bye.
Thank you both. Love you both.
Love you. Bye.
Ocean Ramsey, how awesome is she?
She is so amazing. Massive girl crush.
And I'm so jealous of some of the experiences she's had as well, to see those giant mega girls.
Yeah. Huge.
Like I said, you can say 16 foot, 18 foot, 20 foot, but until you see them in person and you see just how big they are, like the picture of her beside this shark, without her freediving fins on, she's not even half as long as it.
No, she's not. And would you be scared if a great white shark that size swam up next to you? I would. It would take me a while to get used to it.
You know what? It's true what she says. You just, when you're in the moment with them, it all just goes away, and you're just enraptured with their size and their beauty. And before you get in the water with great white sharks outside of a cage and stuff, you really do pay attention to their subtle movements and make sure that they're not being predatory and they're chilling out and they're safe to swim with. But to be honest, I think my heart rate would be going 1,000,000 miles a minute.
I'm supposed to be going to Guadalupe in September to tag great white sharks. And I'm pretty nervous about it, but I'm excited.
Go and hang out with Ocean for a while.
Yeah, might need to do some great white shark training.
Yeah, definitely. You're going to love it though. It's so incredible. It's a life-changing experience. But you can find Ocean Ramsey at Ocean Ramsey on Instagram. Her lovely husband, Juan Oliphant, is at Juan Sharks. He did all the photos for the book, What You Should Know About Sharks. And then follow him at One Ocean Diving as well. Check out what they're doing. Follow them along. Learn everything you can from these two, because they've been dedicating their lives to sharks in Hawaii for quite some time. And yeah, I'm enamored with the two of them, how much of their lives they've dedicated to this animal. And
I love that they're a couple and they found each other and they spend every day going on these amazing dates, free diving with 20, 30, 40 sharks.
Bringing people together. What can't sharks do?
Coexisting, sharks and humans. It's what it's all about, right?
Absolutely.
So I don't understand why the New South Wales and Queensland governments still have these drum lines and shark nets floating around off our coasts when they've been proven in court that they're ineffective.
I think it's just because they like justifying their job and making it look like they're actually doing something to keep the public safe without actually doing anything to keep the public safe.
Wait a minute. Baiting a massive drum line near swimmers and surfers to attract sharks in is keeping the public safe.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's like swimming near a fisherman, because that's a really good idea. Having fish food in the water, shark food in the water is not going to attract sharks at all. So definitely go swim around the shark food.
Okay. Well, I mean, Paul, Are shark nets and drumlines effective?
No, they've been scientifically proven in Hawaii, actually, to not be effective. I know that there are a lot of other shark mitigation techniques out there, from drones to shark spotters to shark barriers. I don't know why the government decides to just keep using this old, barbaric and archaic technique that doesn't actually keep anyone safe. It just seems stupid to me, but you know what? We never really think that they're the smartest people in the world, do they?
No. And I find it odd that we can't even go near these drum lines. And if we do, we get thousands of dollars worth of fines. Is that because there's other things that are stuck and attached and have been caught by these drum lines that maybe would infuriate the public if they found out?
Absolutely not. It's for public safety, Julia. Do not go near our hooks or our nets because you'll get a $50,000 fine. It's for your own safety. We're the government and we have your safety in mind.
I would really like to take these government officials swimming with sharks and dolphins and, you know, all of the things that they tend to catch.
Yeah. Well, these nets and these drum lines don't do anything to keep the public safe. They actually have live bait on them a lot of the time. Sometimes you'll...
Live bait?
Live bait, because the dead bait will attract the live shark. The live shark will get stuck on the hook, and then a bigger shark comes along. So you're actively attracting bigger sharks with live bait. Then you talk about the other costs and tolls. Humpback whales, baby dolphins, seals, rays. It's just such an outdated technique that doesn't do anything. And most of the sharks caught in the nets are caught on the inside trying to get out.
I heard about a film, Paul, recently. It's called Envoy Cull. And apparently it's a film that takes us behind the scenes of the last 7 years of what the government has caused.
I feel like you were just watching that because I'm in it.
Are you an Envoy Cull?
Hell yeah, I am.
Oh. Well, guys, that's another reason.
Really watched it well, didn't you?
I haven't watched it. The film. That's what I was saying. I heard that there was a film called Envoy Cull, and I did a bit of research, and I need to watch this film, like everybody who's listening, because it shows the amount of damage that the Australian government has created by issuing these drum lines and these nets off the coast of Australia. That's something we covered today.
Yeah. We got into the nitty-gritty of that, what the drum lines, what the nets are actually doing, why the government is hiding this and trying to conceal it from the general public. It doesn't work. The nets don't span the beach. They don't even go all the way to the bottom of the sea. They're just this tiny little, like, death trap for all life in the ocean.
And the bait is sitting near the surface.
On the drum lines, yeah.
Where surfers and people stay.
Yep, and the Queensland government continues to catch them and kill them. At least in New South Wales with the DPI, they've got the smart drum lines. The contractors are supposed to go out there at a rapid rate of knots to get the sharks off these hooks, relocate them, tag them, and let them go. But in Queensland, they're still killing them.
So guys, if you'd like to get involved in saving sharks, please head over to Ocean Ramsey's Instagram page, head over to Envoy Cull, head over to Yuan Shark's Instagram page, One Ocean Diving, and just get involved, sign petitions, and do the right thing, because we need to preserve sharks because they preserve our ecosystem. And without our marine ecosystem, we're pretty much screwed.
That's right. And as we always say, it's the small things done consistently by many people that make the difference. So sign those petitions because they really do make a difference when presented to government. We're all in this together. We all want to protect our vital ocean ecosystems and we all want to protect sharks. So get involved. Follow everyone we've been talking to and just rambling.
And if you're not following us, then get onto it. But thanks, guys. Thanks for listening to The Dirt Down Under with Julia Wheeler and Paul Degelder.
And his egg.